Hello, my name is Ben Duke. I'm the country head for Turkey. I've been asked by Susie and Kevin to provide some background to the move that we made back in September 2013 to a more category aligned way of working with commercial rather than just being 100% supplier facing with our MPT. The first question they want to ask is why did you decide to move to a category-aligned way of working? Well, it's very simple, really. The feedback and perception of dunnhumby from commercial had simply not been positive enough. The feedback we were getting was we provide insight, not recommendations. dunnhumby does not know the categories well enough. We're always asking for revenue but giving nothing in return. We don't challenge commercial enough because we don't know enough about what they do. We're not bold enough with our recommendations. We don't contribute enough in the key meetings. And basically, we weren't doing enough to help commercial solve the challenges they were facing at the time, which were some very severe like-for-like challenges. And overall, commercial support was crucial to the long-term success of dunnhumby. We were very reliant on them for all our revenue, as I'm sure it is for you guys as well. And yet, if they didn't support us, we always struggled to achieve our objectives. Commercial is really the heart of Tesco, and we had to make it the heart of what we did. If we can help commercial win with their customers, they will help dunnhumby to win with their suppliers. So the second question is, what were your concerns going into the change? I guess overall there was just a general fear of the unknown. We were concerned about how well the team would be able to adapt to working with commercial with the overloading of the workload versus what they were doing with suppliers and what they were doing previously before, in fact, in terms of chasing revenue and doing consultancy work with suppliers. We were unsure about how commercial were going to respond. Were they going to swamp dunnhumby with loads of requests? Were they going to ignore them? Were they going to find it irritating that we were always sort of around there but not actually delivering anything? You know, were we going to be able to really step up our game enough that they felt the impact and started to work much more closely with us in the way we wanted to do? We set ourselves a sort of clear objective, which was to deliver more customer recommendations directly to commercial to improve Kipper performance. I mean, that was the main goal we had. And with that in mind, we sort of started the whole process. So what ones were realised? Well, actually, and admittedly it's over a year ago now, so it's slightly foggy, it all went rather smoothly. There was a huge amount of work required from the team to do it. And it's worth you guys realising that in Turkey we have two offices, one that's based in Istanbul where the majority of the MP team sit, and then in Izmir where I am now, which is where the headquarters of Tesco is in Turkey. So physically we weren't even present, so that was a bit of a problem. And actually what we implemented was something that we call Kipper Weeks. Tesco trade under the name Kipper, that's their name here, like Home Plus. And so the whole team would come down for a week to Izmir and focus just on Kipper 1 week out of every month. That was one of the ways we tried to manage the workload and sort of get the headspace. So 1 week out of every month, they were just doing Kipper stuff. And actually the way we set it was that you should really be spending about 50% of your time working on Tesco stuff and 50% on suppliers. And to begin with, we will make that literally 50%. So 2 weeks of the month for suppliers and 2 weeks for Tesco. The prep for Tesco beforehand for 1 week and then the actual week being in the office. The other thing we did is we gave a lot of help from the solutions team in terms of preparing a lot of so category health checks really is the best way of describing it. And the team did it, the solutions did it as well, and it was a combined effort. And then they would go in to all the buyers and the category buyer managers and so on with these health checks and sort of just doorstep them and sit on their desk and help them do things. And we decided very early on that we didn't want to be an irritant by continually asking for briefs. What's your problems? What's your priorities? We frankly should know that. So we decided to be very proactive. So we just ran a load of analysis ourselves. I mean, we knew what the categories are. We knew what the biggest, most important categories were. We looked at them and we basically went in there and said, here's recommendations. Okay, this is what you should do. Here's the problem you're facing. So you've got a range problem here, you've got a price there, your promotion's not working, your price sensitive customers, etc., etc. And then we just told them what to do. And we were very, very bold in our recommendation. Now, we got loads wrong, for sure, to begin with, but commercial like to be told what to do. I mean, they just are happy. You know, they make 1,000 decisions every week and they get at least I don't know, half of them wrong. You can see that yourself. No one minds a decision being made. What they actually mind is not having decisions made for them. So we briefed our team really closely. They should just go for it. There was no fear of getting things wrong. It's much better to try and fail than to not try at all. And the things that we got right, Tesco really liked, and it really made a big difference to them. And they started to see over the months, each month we'd come back with loads of stuff, loads of proactive recommendations and analysis. And that then started to lead into proper briefs. So we stopped just doing a huge sort of broad sweep of analysis and recommendations. And they would say, okay, look, I've got a problem on eggs, can you help me with that? And so on. And it became a more natural relationship between the two. And actually over time, we've really pulled away from spending fixed weeks here, weeks there, and it just become a much more natural way of working between Kippa and dunnhumby. So what can we learn from and do in Asia to overcome them? I think my number one thing, as I said, is just be really bold. Don't be afraid to tell commercial what to do. They're desperate to know. They may not agree with you, but it will at least make them think and respect you next time you go in there with a recommendation. And it's also the only way you're going to learn about really the heart of commercial decision making from a retailer. What have been the benefits and concerns to our clients? Well, obviously, from Tesco, from a retailer point of view, they've got a fabulous resource that effectively they don't pay for. I mean, we made the decision because so much of all of our revenue effectively comes via commercial and the support they give to us with suppliers, that we would give 50% of our effectively supplier-facing teams into commercial. So they get this resource for free, in effect. And of course, they benefited tremendously from it. They've had all this great analysis, and it's really, I mean, we're completely embedded into how commercial work, and they find it quite hard to make a decision when we're not around, and the team now are sort of actually struggling to manage their requests. It's really sort of gone exactly where we wanted it to, actually. And in fact, what we've had to do is implement a category service model. So we've agreed with each of our trading directors for the three main divisions of food, non-food and fresh, which category will be effect high service, which will be low, and which will be mid. And there's various sort of degrees of attention they're going to get. So each trading director, I think, gets one full service category, and that's where we give it the full dunnhumby work. We'll sit down and we'll do loads of work for them. Most of the categories are sort of mid or low service, where we will provide a little bit of consultancy, a little bit of work. The rest of it will be sort of shop training and question answering and so on. And some just don't get touched at all because they're not important enough, or they don't have enough problems that are worth warranting. And we only have a small team. It's a team of 6 here. So we do have to manage Tesco, Kippa pretty well. And we have monthly meetings with each trading director where we have the work plan of what we're going to work on for their teams that month. And it's agreed. It doesn't work brilliantly every time, but it's about the only way you can do it. And then whenever there's a problem, it sort of gets escalated up to me or my category lead, and we will sit down with them and try and sort it out. They're pretty good about it, Tesco. I mean, they understand that it's a free resource, that they love it. And they are quite responsive. If we push back on things, they'll help us move the priorities around so we can work within the confines of the team. And actually, what we found is we've ended up giving them a load more time, which is to be expected because they're pretty demanding. But it's not really been too much of a problem, because I guess going into the other part of the question, what has it meant for the suppliers? They've effectively got a much more engaged commercial team who actually understand much more about customer data than they did before, and they generally work better with them. Not in all cases, because that would just be amazing, but it doesn't happen. But actually, my team are much more able to work with the suppliers, knowing what Tesco want now, because we're so close to commercial and work with them so much. We know their priorities. When there's collaboration and crossover opportunities that come up because of the knowledge of commercial, which we didn't really have before, we're much more able to push that forward. Now, it has to be said in Turkey that Tesco and suppliers do not work very closely at all. So we're starting from a really, really low base. So sort of any improvement feels massive. So I'm sure that won't always be the same for all of your markets, but you're probably a lot more advanced than we are. So the next question is, what were the benefits to our teams? I I think they just felt a lot more in the thick of it and a lot more in control of their own destiny. Previously, they were always going cap in hand to commercial, begging them to help them with various suppliers to get the revenue. And then they were doing work for suppliers, but they weren't ever seeing that work in store because it's so hard to get things executed. Now they had much, much stronger relationships with commercial. They really understood them. They understood what they're trying to do, and they were able to influence them much more. Now, I'm not saying we got every single recommendation we made executed on shelf, because that just isn't possible and isn't the case at all. However, I think from a team point of view, they just felt a lot more positive about what they were doing. It felt like they were really trying to help the customer. They were really helping Kipper, that own us. And they were able to provide better service to their suppliers, even though they were spending a lot less time physically with them because they were so close to Tesco. So the next question is, how did you pull back support from manufacturers? Well, what we just did, we didn't obviously announce anything. We just naturally drifted back. If there was any kind of sort of need, we would go in and see them. But we sort of just went a bit quiet. And you know what? No one minded. And this has been a huge lesson for me and for other people in Central Europe who've looked at this. The suppliers really didn't mind because, A, they were getting better quality information from the teams. And they were getting better quality relationship with Tesco because of the stuff we were doing. There was a much more collaborative approach, as I said already. It shows that actually they don't need as much from dunnhumby as we think. And my opinion is really, we spend a lot of time on suppliers. Does it actually pay back? And I think the real test and the real measure of that is that this year, dunnhumby in Turkey has grown its revenue by 40%. It's its best year ever, admittedly again from a really small base because we're a very small market, but still it's a 40% growth in the year that we've probably reduced the time we spent with suppliers by 70%. So you can draw your own conclusions from that, but the one I'm drawing is that we were spending a lot of wasted time with suppliers we didn't need to, and we're much better focused facing into Tesco and using that to leverage the relationship with suppliers. Can you share any specific feedback you got from the commercial team? Yes, I do. I have a quote. 1 second. Sorry, I've lost it now. Oh yeah. The commercial director of, the old one, he's moved on to the UK now. But he was a very difficult guy, a guy called Murat Salek. And when I arrived in Turkey, I got a real earful from him, and that feedback I read at the beginning all comes from him. Just before he left, he said, in the last 3 months, I've seen the most improvement and value add from dunnhumby, and hearing it from my team, well done and thank you. So I think that was the only nice thing he ever said about dunnhumby in the whole time he was here. So we love that quote and continue to read it, even though he's been gone for over a year. Can you share any specific feedback you got from the suppliers? No, I can't. We haven't had any, and I think that's good because it shows they've not really noticed the difference. The only feedback, as I said, is the huge increase in revenue growth that we've had. They generally are working much more with us than they ever did, and that for me is the only feedback I'm frankly interested in. Any tips or tricks you've learned along the way? Well, just to summarise some of the things I've said already. Be bold in your recommendations. Don't be afraid to tell commercial what you think they should do, even if you get it wrong. Don't be afraid of pulling back from suppliers. What they actually want more than anything is not you. They want a better relationship with Tesco, and they want a better decision making about their products on shelf. That's all they ever care about. So if you can provide that by being closer to Tesco, then you're doing your job. It doesn't matter whether you're doing the work or they're doing it direct with the buyer. Providing you're facilitating that through your relationship with Tesco, that's a job well done. Okay, I hope that helps. Good luck with all your work. And if anyone has any further questions, then feel free to drop me a line and I'll do anything I can to help. Okay, goodbye.